It's thinking. Okay. So Eric and Lisa, thank you so much for doing this Facebook Live. I want to talk about your third documentary that you're working on, but it was such a pleasure meeting you. Has it been 2 years already?
It had to have been,
Yeah,
yes.
in Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma, I know, at the Bare Bones, what music and film festival. That's a long name, but it was such a wonderful event. And those film festival directors are absolutely amazing.
Oh,
But
yes.
Yeah.
but I think we just sort of gravitated to each other right away because we both had documentaries that were set in Detroit. So how is everything in Detroit right now?
Things are
going
going
okay,
steady, I guess.
We're doing well.
Doing.
People are out and about, even though Michigan does have a very high COVID rate right now, but we're all hanging in there.
Just got to be smart about it. You
Yeah.
know, I think everybody's just finding kind of individual ways to navigate through all this, and just have to be smart about it and just be empathetic and everybody needs to care about everybody else.
Well, it's talk about caring. When I saw your first documentary, I can see the care that both of you as filmmakers and husband and wife, that you can do this as a husband and wife team is just absolutely amazing to me. But, you have turned around some incredible documentaries, and now you're working on your third documentary. And I want you to talk a little bit about that and tell us what you're doing to promote this documentary so that we can get people out there to support you.
Sure. Okay. Well, our current documentary in production is called We Thrive. And you can find it at We Thrive Movie on Facebook. But anyways, it's about Armenian American musicians and the healing powers of music. And we're both Armenian Americans, so we thought it was kind of a very personal story. But I feel it's a story, maybe as Lisa will explain, that's broader and not just appeal to our ethnicity, but anybody really.
Yeah, growing up, I know Eric has said, he's heard a lot about the Armenian history of the Armenian genocide. And we always thought, geez, there's so much more to Armenianness than a tragic history. Yeah. And I think any group of people, any ethnicity, any religious group can identify. Many people, unfortunately, do have a tragic history that their ancestors have been through. Mm-hmm. But we don't have to be defined by that. We can show that even though we've been through that, our ancestors have been through that, we can thrive. We thrive now. And also more on a personal level. If someone has been through personal tragedies, hardships, obstacles in their life, that music has actually been proven to be healing.
Very therapeutic.
Even personally. So it's kind of a double message in the film.
And we try to make a correlation between the two and kind of make a broader story that includes history, Armenian history, world history, different genres of music, because it's not just a lot of films I've seen, a lot of great documentaries out there, documentaries about Armenian history, but they're either just focused on the genocide or it's about traditional music and things of that nature. We wanted to tell a broader story and include Armenians of all different backgrounds, blues, jazz, rock,
classical,
and how they express themselves and tell their personal stories of their families and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have a Grammy award-winning classical violist. We have a blues singer, someone who does commercial music for jingles and all kinds. So we have all kinds of musicians and how music fits into their lives. Yeah, so it's gonna be very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, that was my question: is how did you find? In documentaries we call them subjects. How did you find your subjects?
Well, mostly just through personal knowledge of who was out there. We're trying to stick to people in the Detroit area. I had read an article that the Armenian Museum of America had published, and it made mention of a gentleman, I think in the 30s, an Armenian man who recorded Armenian music in Detroit back in the 30s and 40s. And I thought, wow, Armenians have been making music in Detroit for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we always like to have like a little bit of a Detroit spin on our films. So yeah, we kept it to musicians who have some kind of tie to the Detroit area.
Angela, I'm sure you've heard this, especially like filmmakers and that. I've read and seen interviews with filmmakers, and they say, talk about what you know, make a film about what you know. So, we come from our background, and we'll, a lot of times our stories kind of emanate from Detroit because that's where we're from. But again, I can't stress the broader story enough. And I think we've tried to create that with all our films. They've been Michigan centered, I guess, but we try to tell a broader story.
Well, and what I've really enjoyed about the first documentary, and I'm looking forward to seeing this documentary, is that your point of view of giving us an unknown story that we don't know about, but should have known about. And I think that's probably why I've always felt so drawn to both of you, because we pretty much think the same way. This is what people see all the time. Like you said, when we hear about the Armenian story, we hear about the genocide, but there's another side to it. And let's focus on that. And so what you're doing is you're adding more dimension to what we know. Mm-hmm. And I know, Eric, we just go with what we know, but sometimes we don't realize other people don't know that, and they need to know it.
Yeah.
And point. Also when making a documentary is a learning experience. So it's sort of like doing a research, when you were in college and you had to do research papers. It's sort of like that, doing a documentary. Like you have to do your research, and as you're filming and as you're talking to people, you learn more and more. So the documentary kind of changes as it goes along, and it all depends on what our subjects have to tell us.
Yeah. Every time I was just talking to Lisa about this morning, every film that we make, it always brings, I know myself, it always brings something out of me. It always teaches me something that I didn't know. You start having, because, obviously when you make a documentary, it's somewhat scripted as far as like, okay, we want to include this kind of content and that kind of content and kind of like have an outline, but then you just got to let it roll because, you don't know what people are going to say, how they're going to respond, how they're going to, be on camera, what they're going to have to say. So you just have to go with the flow on it.
We had
I'm sorry. No, you go, Lisa.
We had a phone conversation with one of our subjects who we have not interviewed yet. And he says, well, I disagree with such and such. He goes, I don't know if you want me in your film, because I think the opposite of a certain point. I said, no, we want you to be candid, and we want to hear what you have to say. So we definitely want you in the film.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I think sometimes that's a challenge when you're talking to people to try to get those subjects, is that they think that if they don't fit what you've written in your log line, that they may not be an important part of what the story you're trying to tell. But everybody's story is important because it's coming from their own viewpoint.
Well, yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's something, maybe it's just my curiosity, but I really do believe anyone you see in the grocery store, anyone you see on the street has a story to tell. There's a million documentaries out there that can be made if you just sit down with someone and have a heart-to-heart conversation with them.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And I love that philosophy, and it's a philosophy that I firmly believe in as well. So you are past pre-production, you are in production. Tell us some of the things that you've learned, because this is your third documentary. So I know this one's different because you're now in production during COVID. So what's some of the tips that you can give some of the filmmakers out there as they start to work on their productions during COVID? I mean, we just thought this was going to be a few months, but we're in year 2.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, what are some of the tips you can give us?
Well, since we're dealing with musicians and they perform, a lot of them are still performing now indoors in venues. And I'm personally hesitant about going into the venues. So we're waiting until spring and summer to get more outdoor performances, to film outdoor performances. We did a few already, but now we have to wait since we're in Michigan.
Yeah.
Other than that, geez, I don't know. We keep it's just the two of us. Our crew is just the two of us. So keeping it light as far as the number of people. Usually when we interview someone, it's just them.
Yeah, usually it's just been one-on-one.
Yeah.
Maybe it might be 2 people at the most, but it's been pretty much kind of like a small grouping
so keep
of people.
The number of people to a minimum.
We've done a couple of, just by the nature of just location, we've done a couple of Zoom calls.
Yeah, well, an elderly gentleman we interviewed lives in Florida. Again, he's in Florida, we're in Michigan. And then the classical violist, she lives in Boston. We were considering going to Boston, but that didn't work out. So those were the 2 Zoom interviews we did. It was challenging technically because the resolution and the quality of the Zoom video was not
it's
up
not
to par.
It's not ideal, but we're working it out.
Yeah.
It's coming together. It's coming. Yeah, a lot of the clips. I mean, we've got a lot of interviews that we've done already, and over the last few months, and between that and a lot of the B-roll and background and historic information that we already have put together, we've probably got close to an hour already.
Oh yeah, well, yeah.
And then we still got still have other interviews. We still got about 3 or 4 key interviews that we want to do, plus some other candid things and whatnot. So it's exciting.
It's exciting. Well, you know what? You said something, Eric. So I actually thought of 2 questions. First is, how difficult is it for both of you as producers?
Excuse me. Okay.
That's okay. Eric.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You talk.
Okay, gotcha.
So how difficult is it for you as a producer to narrow down those interviews to find the story that you want to tell? How difficult is that? Because you said you already have an hour. Right. Well,
that's one of the keys. In fact, a good friend of ours that does a lot of production for public television, he kind of gave us the key early on, looking at one of our earlier movies, about you don't want to have too many people. You want to try to focus more on the stories of maybe just a handful of people, so that's always a challenge to kind of balance that out, what you're talking about.
That's one of the,
what do you leave in, what do you leave out? I mean,
that's one of the main challenges, is who to include and who not to include. There's one person I was okay. For one thing, I wanted to make it diverse as far as male and female. Always in our films, it's hard to find females in the music industry. So trying to find females, musicians, was a challenge. And then because it's music oriented, we need to use people whose music we can use without having to shell out exorbitant amounts of money. Licensing fees.
Yeah, licensing.
So if someone
licensing is an issue too. Yes.
So we want to focus on people who do original music, and so that limited it, because some people are only doing cover music, other people's music. that limits us.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's really interesting. Well, and those were great answers, because I put this in a group that there will be students that may want to do documentaries, and these tips are really helpful. Now, you have, with this documentary, you've done something for the very first time. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, and we can put it out there so that people can help. So for the very first time, you started your own crowdsourcing. And how did you decide that this was the time to do it? And how did you decide what platform you wanted to use?
Well, we decided that this was the time to do it because really from experience, especially when you do music, like we were just referencing, do films with music, you're dealing with a lot of licensing issues. Obviously, we've had legal support in the past, to do some research for us and that sort of thing. So you had legal costs, insurance, music licensing, all this stuff really adds up. Archival research, and getting archival footage, that can be very, very costly. So there's a lot of costs that go into, especially I think doing documentaries, because it's a lot more research based. Yeah,
if you're doing anything that involves looking back, you're going to use archival footage, archival photos, and there are licensing fees for that, just as there are licensing fees for music.
Yes.
So, and then there's errors and omissions insurance for documentaries. In order to get that, you have to have an entertainment attorney. Yeah. So all our other films have been self-funded. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. We
didn't make any, we didn't make any profits off of those.
Oh yeah, we never do. We never do.
It's not like
that's always a goal.
It's not like
it is a goal. I think we all want to be Ken Burns one day.
Yeah. There you go.
So we established 2 crowdfunding platforms. One is on GoFundMe, We Thrive documentary, and the other one is through Fractured Atlas, which is a fiscal sponsorship, which allows the donor to get tax deduction on their donation.
That's nice.
So it's at fracturedatlas.com, and again, search for We Thrive documentary.
Wow. Well, perfect. Now, before we end our conversation, you'll make sure to put those links in with our video, because you can see them. I tagged both of you, so you make sure to put those in the video as well.
Okay.
And definitely, as you get towards the end and get towards the get ready to release it, we would love to see a trailer or a promo.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
We'll keep you updated.
Absolutely. Well, keep us posted with everything, and especially when you start going outside again to get some of these videos and interviews, that's going to be absolutely wonderful, beautiful footage. I definitely want to see that.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, you two have a wonderful holiday in Detroit. And
you too.
Seeing my family out there, tell them I said hello.
Okay.
We will.
Take care. And you two keep doing great things. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Angela.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.